Hello my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here and it's time for another ColourPop palette review. Today it's the My Little Pony palette. This is the fourth 12 pan eyeshadow palette that ColourPop has released. I do have the other three and I've done reviews of two of those, so if you're interested in seeing more reviews of these ColourPop palettes, I will link those videos below for you. Like all of the other palettes this size, the My Little Pony palette does retail for $16. This is the cardboard carton that the palette comes in. It has the little pony print on it and it does have a kind of metallic My Little Pony sticker as well as a little rainbow that says ColourPop, and on the back it shows all of the shade names. The palette itself is so adorable. It has the little sort of holographic pony stickers, a big rainbow, this cloud print. It's so stinking cute. And just like the cardboard packaging, the shade names are printed on the back of the palette. This palette is a heavy duty cardboard and it does have a magnetic closure. Like the other palettes, there's no mirror inside. There are 12 eyeshadow shades, and again, the names are not printed inside on the palette, they're just printed on the back. The shadows are a mix of colors and finishes. There are 2 satins, 4 mattes, and 6 metallic shades. As of the time I'm filming this palette is still in stock on the ColourPop website. However, because it's a collaboration, I think we can expect this palette to be limited edition. Now that we're through all the product info, let's go ahead and get to the swatches. I'm going to swatch all the shades with my finger and with a brush, just on the back of my hand with no primer. The finger swatches will be on top and the brush swatches will be below. For my brush swatches, I will be using my e.l.f. flat eyeshadow brush, and I'll clean off in between each shade using my Viramono color switch. These are the swatches of the top row of the palette. This first shade is called Butterscotch, and on the ColourPop website, they describe this as having an opalescent sheen. However, I feel that this is very much a matte. It's kind of like a cool tone, light pink meets white, but it looks very matte to me. Next, we have the shade Blossom. This is a really pretty pinky rose gold with a little bit of a yellow gold shift. This is the shade that's all over my lids today. Next is Starshine. This is also a metallic and this is a very yellow gold. Lastly, we have one of the 2 satins in the palette. This is called Bluebell and it is a satiny off-white. Here is the middle row from the palette. First up, we have this rosy mauve shade called Applejack. This is a matte. Next up, we have Sky Dancer, which is a very glittery metallic purple. This one is called Minty, kind of an odd choice for her pink, but this one does look a bit like Applejack. It's just more of a bright pink version of this shadow. And lastly, another matte. This one's called Flutterby. It is a beautiful soft peach. I think this is probably the best performing matte in this palette. Here's the last row in the palette. The first one is a satin and the rest are metallic shades. This Blackened Plum satin shade is called Twilight. Next we have a sort of seafoam green shade. This one's called Firefly. A super cool duochrome called Snuzzle, kind of a blue-green duochrome. And lastly, Princess Sparkle is a peacock green shade. Now that we're done with the swatches, I'm going to jump into the eyeshadow tutorial using this palette, and then I'll wrap up my thoughts at the end. You may be surprised by what I'm going to say about this palette, but we'll get to that. As always, I'm priming my eyes with my MAC Painterly Paint Pot. Are you guys getting sick of hearing me say that? Because I feel like I say that in every single tutorial. Next, I'm gonna set that base with this shade called Butterscotch. It's a pale, kind of pastel, pinkish white, and that'll give us a smooth surface to work on. Next, I'm gonna start with my transition shade. This is Flutterby. It is such a beautiful light peach shade, and this is one of my favorite shades in this palette. Now I'm going to start to build a little bit of a pink tone in there, so I'm using another matte called Applejack, and I'm sweeping that on the outer part of my eye and also into my crease. I found this shade to be not really as pigmented as I liked, so I did have to layer this shade quite a bit and work with it to blend it out and make it look nice and smooth. It's not a bad shadow by any means, it just wasn't quite as easy to work with as Flutterby was. Speaking of Flutterby, I'm going to use that to blend just a little bit and bring some more of that peach back into the crease. Now for my all over lid shade, I'm using Blossom, and I'm going to apply that with my finger so that I get the most metallic shine possible. And again, I did have to go over this shade twice to get the payoff that I wanted. Now I'm going to add a little bit more depth to the outer corner, so I'm using that slightly deeper shade called Minty, and I'm just building that up a little bit again on the outer part of my eye and into the outer part of my crease. Now I'm taking Flutterby again, this time on a little flat brush, and I'm just adding that along my lower lash line, mostly focused on the outer half of the lash line. Now for a little unexpected pop on the lower lash line, I'm going to use the same brush to apply that shimmery gold called Starshine all along the lower lash line, just to add a little shimmer. Now for an inner corner highlight, I'm using this pale satin shade called Bluebell with a little detail brush all around the inner corner of my eye. And lastly, I'm using the shade Twilight on a small angled brush, and I'm just smudging that along my upper lash line, focusing mostly on the outer half of the eye, just to give a sort of faux liner look. Then I'll just curl my lashes and add a little bit of mascara, and that finishes off my look. This look turned out to be fun and colorful, but yet still wearable, and it looks perfect with a glossy pink lip. My feelings about this palette are very, very mixed. There are some things I like about it, there are some things I really don't like about it. Let's just start with what I don't like about it so that we can end on a happy note. I don't know why these shadows do not perform that well for me. I think you could tell in the swatches, especially the brush swatches, these just are not super pigmented. When I was working with them, they felt a lot stiffer and a lot drier than the other ColourPop palettes I've used. If you've seen any of my other reviews on these 12 pan palettes from ColourPop, I love them. I gave them glowing reviews. I did the Yes Please palette and the I Think I Love You palette, and I raved about those. I loved the quality, I loved the shades, and this just feels different. This doesn't feel as pigmented. It wasn't as easy to work with on the eyes. It wasn't by any means the worst eyeshadows I've ever used. I just had that expectation. The bar was set really high from the other palettes that I've used, and this just really doesn't live up to those quality-wise. I'm sorry about it. I'm sorry about it. I love ColourPop. I love ponies, rainbows, unicorns. I love all that. But I don't love these shadows. There are a few shades in here that I feel like performed really, really well. And particularly the mattes seem to be better than the metallics in this palette. This shade called Flutterby, this beautiful light peach, this performed really, really well for me with a brush, and I feel like it blended really well on my eyes. I also think that this duochrome, super bright, shifty blue-green color called Snuzzle is very special. This shade is going to be really cool worn alone. It's also going to be very transformative if you layer it on top of another shade. For me, I think those two are really the standouts. The satins performed just fine for me. I used both of them on my eye look and I liked them. In general, I think that all of these shades perform better when applied with the finger than with a brush. I hate to say it because I really love ColourPop. I love my ColourPop palettes. Maybe I just got like a super dry one. I don't know. If you have this palette, let us know what your experience is, because you never know, maybe I just got a dud. If you're using these and you feel like these shadows are really great quality-wise, please let us know, because I don't know. I only have one palette, so I don't know. It's undeniable the biggest pro for this palette is the packaging It's so stinking cute. And if you're like me, if you're an 80s baby and you played with My Little Pony when you were a little kid, then this is gonna be really nostalgic. I do think this is a great collector's item. And quality issues aside, I do think they did a great job of choosing the shades for this palette. They feel very appropriate to the theme, yet they're very wearable. These shades really walk the line between being fun and bright and colorful, but also still approachable. I do want to continue to play with this and use this and see if, you know, maybe I'll change my mind about it. Maybe I'll fall in love with the shadows. I've only had this for a couple of days, so we'll see what happens in the future. I probably won't make another video about it, but follow me on Instagram and I'll keep you updated on my experiences there. I always love to hear what you guys think about the things that I review, so please leave a comment and let us know your thoughts on this palette. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. I mean, it looks good on my eyes. It looks good. It just wasn't like my favorite thing to use ever. Trickles? Trickles? Huh? Oh, I also got I ordered some of the no filter concealers too. Light neutral. Look how pale these are. Like, that's even pale for me. And I'm pale. So that's saying something. Yikes. Oops. I tried to put Shape Tape over this and it looked a hot mess. Don't, you know, Shape Tape Army, don't come after me. I know you're out there. I wanted to love the palette. I wanted to love it, but I don't hate it. I just don't love it. Oh well, can't win them all. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's a nice combo. Okay, let's get this party started. Oh, I got eyeshadow in my eye. Way too excited about My Little Ponies. It's got freaking holographic unicorn pony rainbow stickers. I blame my toddler and my husband being in the military for all of these gray hairs, but I started getting gray hair before I had either of those things. I don't feel that I need to explain it. My Little Pony palette. That's the back. Blech. Always awkward. Never get less awkward. Sometimes you get more awkward, but you never get less awkward.